Today we're going to get into some proper blacksmithing. What we're going to be making is an adze, similar to this one right here. This is what we use for carving bowls and whatnot. So this one is forged from a leaf spring out from underneath the truck we got somewhere, and some other piece of scrap iron we got from some other place. Anyways, a funny story that I'm not going to tell right now, that will be a video for another day, is the adze that we're going to be replacing today broke. And that is the most valuable adze in my world. That will be a video for another day. Anyways, so we're going to be replacing that one and forging something similar to this. So let's take a look at the material we're going to actually use today. Let's take a look. So this is the leaf spring we're going to be working with today. This is what we're actually going to make the cutting edge for the adze out of. This is a good piece of carbon steel. So you can really temper this out nice, as long as you know how to, and get it to hold an edge for a really long time. So let's go ahead and lay out what we need to and cut into it and get started. So we're going to go ahead and lay out the iron that we need, the length of steel, go ahead and start cutting it out. So we had a bit of a disaster. What happened was our 4-inch grinder burned up on this one cut. So we're going to have to finish up the rest of the cutting by hot cutting, which is fine too. So let's go ahead and throw the sucker in the fire. So we got it in the fire, soaking up a good heat. That's a pretty big piece of metal. It's going to take a minute to get a heat on it. And while that's warming up, I just wanted to point out a few things. We're working right out in the open sun right now, which is a disaster for blacksmithing because you can't see the color of the metal when everything is so bright. So that's a total disaster. If you look further down there, you can see that's our new blacksmith shop we're building right now. We're just not done. So as of now, we're still just kind of working out in the open. Totally lame, but one of these days we'll be inside. So we're about to shape the cutting edge of the adze right here to give us that nice round, and we have this hammer as flat on one side and a rounding hammer on the other side. So that round matches the inside of that roll real good, and that's going to give us a lot of control. So let's go ahead and put our piece of metal on here and get a shape, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So that is pretty much the rough out of what the iron's going to look like, the actual cutting edge on the adze. That's a rough out of it right there. We're going to switch our focus to actually making the handle now. So how we're going to hook the handle to the actual adze iron itself is, I used to weld them on back in the day, but I don't have a welder anymore. And so that is going to make it impossible to weld it on. So we're going to, we've drifted a hole in it. I don't know if you can see right there good. We've drifted a hole in the head of the iron there, and then we're going to cut a tenon on the end of the handle and push it through and rivet it out, brad out the back of the head. So it's going to be like riveted on. And I have made an adze or two like this. It seems to work really good. So what we have up here is a piece of 3/4 by 3/4 in the fire. Hopefully you can see it. And we're getting a good heat on the end because we're going to upset the end. We're going to drive it back into itself to create, for lack of a better term, a big lump of metal on the end of that, so it creates a good shoulder for that tenon that we need. Let's go ahead and do some upsetting. And you can see how that gets pretty big. It flares out pretty big on the end. So that's going to give us plenty of metal to get a good shoulder. We've got our adze iron right here, all shaped out. That's pretty much what it's going to look like when it's done. We've got the edge even kind of roughed out. It's not sharp yet at all, because when you heat it up, the car spring itself has got a good high temper to it, or whatever that specific temper they need to get that springiness. Anyways, when you put it in the fire and heat it up, it loses all of that. It becomes pretty mild at that point. So now we have to re-harden it. So we're getting ready to put it back in the fire and bring it up. And I'm not going to have enough time in this video to explain to you the hardening process. That will be a video for another day, but you'll kind of get a quick run through and see how it's going to go. So let's go ahead and put it in the fire and get a heat on this thing. So we have our adze iron. It's in the fire back there right now, soaking up some heat. We got to get a really, really good heat on it this time. We have to bring it up to above critical temperature. The critical temperature we're talking about is when it becomes not magnetic anymore. So you have to heat it up to where it becomes not magnetic, and then we're going to quench it in this oil right here. And that will bring it, that'll make it as hard as it's going to be. So you have hardening and tempering are two different things. Not going to get into that too much. It'll take too long to explain it in this video. Anyway, so we're going to get it really hot, and then we're going to dip it in the oil we have right there. That's a bucket of vegetable oil. You can use motor oil, or we've used motor oil for years, but when you put it in there, it lights on fire a little bit, and smelling burnt motor oil is pretty lame. Anyways, let's grab that thing and dip it in here. So we just dipped this in the oil and hardened it. So now our Adze iron is as hard as it can get. And in reality, that's too hard because it will cause it to chip on the end if we hit a knot or something. And it can break mid-range because we heated this up really, really hot, and then we dipped it. So we have like a hinge right here as far as metal hardnesses go. And so after a while, it can fatigue and hinge and break. I learned that from personal experience. I'll tell that story one of these days. But so now our iron is as hard as it can get, and that's too hard. So now we're gonna, there's two different things. There's the hardening, which comes first, and then there's the tempering. And now we're gonna temper it. And that's gonna bring the hardness down a little bit to make it a little softer, actually. So it doesn't chip when it hits a knot, but it's still hard enough to hold a really good edge. So let's go ahead and get into that tempering. So after we hardened it, I went on the grinder there, the belt sander, and surfaced it out real good so we could see that nice shininess to it. We have to be able to see that shininess because when we temper it, how we're going to know what temper we want is the color. And so we're going to put a reservoir of heat up here, and that heat's going to run down through here. So the heat up here is going to soften this all back to pretty mild, which is good because then it won't crack under extreme conditions. So this is going to be really mild down to here, but then we want the hardness to kind of harden up as it gets through here. So we're going to see the color come down through. It's going to start as a straw, the color of a straw, and get down here. When we see that straw color evenly come out across that shininess, we're going to dip it in the water and quench it and lock it there. So we want to see the straw down through here, and we want to see the peacock, that blue kind of coming in right behind it. So let's get a heat on that and see if we can watch that color running down through there. You can kind of see on the camera how this is not so shiny. It's faded down to a straw color, and you can see that peacock is creeping right through there. You can see the peacock showing up. And see that nice straw color that has just turned? The whole thing is straw. And now look, the peacock's all the way out here to the end right there. So I'm gonna lock it right there. That's where we want it. You can see that straw and the peacock. So you can see that really nice, even straw color we have all the way out to the end. And then you can see the peacock right there. You can even see the peacock right there on the side. Hopefully you can see that on the camera. But anyways, look at that nice, even straw color. So that's a proper temper. I'll explain all that in another video. So this is the Adze right here. It's roughed out. You can see we got the iron hooked to the handle right here. Super rough shape. We got our rivet all taken care of. Feels to be on there pretty stable. So we're going to put some wooden slabs on the side of this sucker. We've got these pieces of walnut right here, nice dry walnut. So yeah, let's go ahead and start doing that. So that's pretty much the ads right there. That's it. That sucker's done. We got the handle all on and oiled up, looking nice. And yeah, that's what one looks like. So it's not sharpened yet. We're going to save the final sharpening for our sharpening video that we'll post soon. And keep an eye out for that. And in no way, shape, or form was this a tutorial on how to make an ads. If it was a tutorial, it would have to be 5 hours long. As you can see, it's dark, and this will be a condensed, edited version of what it was like to make an ad. So I kind of wanted to say that. But anyways, I hope watching this video brought you guys some sort of enjoyment and possibly answered some questions about some blacksmithing and tool making. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.